Big changes are coming to the real estate industry this week, specifically on August 17th. You have landed on the Livin' in Sedona channel. Welcome if this is your first time. My name is Cami. I'm one of your local real estate agents, and I serve the Sedona and the Verde Valley area. And I try to bring you informative information on this channel about what it's like living here, and I also try to make the channel fun. So on this video today, we are going to be talking about the changes that are happening in the real estate industry and how to navigate them. So whether you are a buyer or you are a seller, I'm going to show you or get you prepared for your next real estate transaction, and we are getting started right now. So before we get started on the topic for the video, I want to start by saying, please don't shoot the messenger. I really wanted to do a video about the changes that were coming to the real estate industry much sooner, but the changes and the rules and the dates when everything was happening, everything was just changing every day, sometimes every hour, and so it just didn't seem to be a good use of my time to actually do that when I would maybe just have to go back and say, oh, now it's this. So I really wanted to wait till we got closer to the changing date when it was supposed to be effective before I did a video, so we would maybe have some congruency on the plan moving forward. So that is why the delay in this video. And also I want to just ask for grace and patience with if you are a buyer or seller and you are in the middle of doing a transaction or getting ready to list your home or buy a home, please have some patience and grace with an agent that you are working with if you are choosing to work with an agent, because we have a lot of new forms. We have a lot of new dates that we have to, be taking into consideration, and we just have a lot of changes going on that, we're all doing this for the first time, and it's going to get easier by the time we do it 5 times, and then we'll be pros again. But just if you're working with a real estate agent, just give them some grace right now and patience with them as they are navigating these changes as well. The real estate industry has been pretty much doing things the same way for a very, very, very long time. And now our world has been turned a little bit upside down and crooked. So we're just trying to navigate it as well. So why the changes? The changes are a result of a settlement that the National Association of Realtors went into in the spring, and they settled on this case to make changes on how compensations are communicated, structured, and paid. So that is why the changes are going to be happening. What are the changes? Basically, there's 2 changes, but it has a huge ripple effect. The 2 changes are this. Buyers will now be required to enter into a buyer-broker agreement with their agent prior to viewing any properties. The other change is that the commission or the compensation that's to be paid will no longer be made available on the MLS or the multiple listing service. Those are the 2 changes that are going to be happening. So let's take a look at what a normal transaction has looked like up until this point. Mr. Seller hires a real estate agent. He wants him to list his house for sale. That seller goes into a listing agreement with the agent or the brokerage that the agent works for or represents. This listing agreement outlines what the services the agent will provide to get the home sold. It also will describe the compensation that is paid to the agent for actually doing the job, and there will be a specific timeline or an expiration date on this listing agreement. All of these things, 3 key things, are negotiable. They have always been negotiable. they will continue to be negotiable. If that agent that the seller, Mr. Seller, is hiring right now, if that agent was very forthcoming, right, and honest, he explained to Mr. Seller that, yes, you are probably paying me, let's just say 5%. Actually, I like 6%. Let's just say that the Mr. Seller has decided to pay the listing agent 6%. The listing agent should be communicating to Mr. Seller that 3%, typically half, is going to be going to the buyer's agent as compensation for bringing the buyer. So, Mr. Buyer sees a house. He calls his agent. The agent asks the agent to set up a viewing for the home. The buyer's agent goes to the MLS, looks at what the property has available, looks at specific documents, looks at the compensation that will be given to the buyer's agent, and sets up a viewing for the Mr. Buyer. Mr. Buyer looks at the property, he likes the property, he puts in an offer, everything moves along great, the offer is accepted, and at the end, seller gets his money, listing agent gets their compensation, buyer's agent gets their compensation, and Mr. Buyer gets the keys to the house. And we're all happy in the town of real estate, right? And on we go. That is not what's going to happen in the future. We will still have listing agreements. Sellers will still enter into listing agreements. As always, sellers will have the option of offering compensation to the buyer's agent. They've always had this ability. We kind of frown upon, offering zero compensation, but that is their choice. They can offer to pay the compensation of the buyer's agent in the listing agreement, or they can choose not to. That has been the same. But just as a seller enters into a listing agreement, buyers will now have to enter into what is called a buyer-broker agreement. This is very similar to the listing agreement. The buyer-broker agreement will outline what services the buyer's agent will offer, what the compensation will be to the buyer's agent for those services, and there will also be a timeline, an expiration date in the buyer-broker agreement. A buyer will have to have a signed agreement before they view any property. So you can see where the rush of seeing properties is going to be kind of come to a standstill, because that buyer-broker agreement is going to be part of the contract. There's going to be certain areas where that the buyer-broker agreement will be housed. It's very similar to a listing agent. We wouldn't want to have a listing agent wouldn't list a home without a listing agreement. So now buyer's agent is not going to show a home without a buyer-broker agreement. Of course, as a buyer, you can choose to be unrepresented, meaning that you don't work with an agent at all, and therefore you don't need to enter into a buyer-broker agreement, and therefore you don't have to worry about paying any compensation. I believe this is an extremely risky situation, especially if you are a first-time home buyer, you've never navigated the home buying process, or if you're a buyer that maybe is purchasing a home that is not in the location that you currently live in. And so maybe geographically, you're not able to be where you're purchasing that home, and so you would need a representative in that location. I think that if buyers choose to go this route, I think we're going to be seeing an increase in real estate litigation, which is not a good thing. Just choosing not to be represented puts you into a corner that could be dangerous for you, And I don't think it's a good place to be. Another option is to use that buyer-broker agreement kind of as a dating period. This allows you to get to know the agent, to see how well you work together. The buyer-broker agreement can be even used just for you to see one property, or it could have the timeline of you just seeing properties for one day. So you can basically, get to know each other, get to know how you work with that agent to see if you want to continue, see if they are going to represent you, if you like them or you don't like them. I think because of the buyer broker requirement now, we're going to see open house attendance go through the roof. This is a great thing for buyers to do, is to attend open houses, because you don't need the buyer broker agreement to go into an open house. I do want you to remember, though, that if you are doing an open house, let's say Saturday you see that there's 5 open houses and you're going to go see all these open houses, just remember when you walk in the door, the agent that is holding the open house is most likely representing the seller and or that brokerage that the property is listed with. So you might find an agent that you really like, and because you've attended an open house, and that's great. But let's say you like them so much, but the house down the street that's for sale that doesn't have an open house, but you'd like to see it, and you ask that agent, could you please show me that house? You will have to at that point then enter into a buyer broker agreement with that agent so you can view that property. So hopefully that makes sense. But I do think that we're going to see an increase in attendance for open houses because there's no risk involved. You can just go look at the house without risk and without committing to anything. But it is a good way to see properties, and it is a good way to interview agents and see what they have to offer. I know that as a buyer, there's just a lot of expenses involved in purchasing a home. And this fact that you possibly are going to be on the hook for paying your buyer's agent, your agent that you're working with, is an extra cost to you. You already have to save for a down payment. You already have to make sure that you have enough income to cover the closing costs. And in the back of your mind, you're probably thinking of all the money you're going to need to move into the house, and any repairs and the new curtains and the new furniture and everything else that you want to do. One of the things we're going to start seeing is that I think for buyers putting in offers on homes, you're going to see the request that sellers actually pay the buyer's agent compensation as part of whether it's the purchase price or whether the purchase price has been lowered to accommodate for the buyer to be able to pay the buyer's agent. I think that we're going to see that for sure in our future contracts that we're writing. So adding that extra expense of paying a buyer's agent is going to be tricky for you. And so again, this is where having an agent is going to actually be advantageous for you. So you are able to negotiate that piece of the puzzle into the purchase price and how your agent is going to get paid. It's starting to rain here, if you haven't seen. So I'm going to try to talk quickly. What they're essentially trying to do is decouple the seller's compensation to the listing agent and the buyer's agent compensation. I think as we move forward with these new changes in place, we're all in new territory, and I think some of them are good. I think it's going to be some good changes. I think people are going to like it. We just have to get through the uncertainty of how to do it as we move forward. I want you to think of it this way, though. As you all may know, if you know me by now, I'm a former nurse practitioner, and this is how I think of it. You would go to your general practitioner for a physical. If they found something wrong with your heart, they would recommend that you see a cardiologist. You are not going to pay your general practitioner to do a cardiac surgery on your heart. You're going to go to the person who knows how to do it, who knows what to do when the surgery doesn't go well, who knows how to navigate all of the ups and downs of the surgery that is involved in getting you to the well spot, the happy place, the end mark. And I think of it like that, because if you don't know how to navigate the real estate negotiations, the new timelines that we have, the new forms that we have, that could be a dangerous situation for you. You would pay the cardiologist to do cardiac surgery. You wouldn't pay the general practitioner to do cardiac surgery because he's not familiar. He doesn't know the way. He doesn't know the roles. He doesn't know how to navigate when issues arise. Your real estate agent does know. I know that not everybody needs a real estate agent. I get it. And, if you're an investor, you've done this 100 times, you know how to navigate these things, more power to you. I just think that it's very dangerous to enter into territory that you're not familiar with. And having an agent to represent you and your interests and to negotiate for you and to get you to the finish line is what is important. It's really sad that we have agents out there that have given us a bad name, but we're not all bad. We are entering into just a new age in real estate industry, and we all have a lot of questions, so please feel free to reach out. All right, that was a lot of information. I hope it was informative for you. Make sure you like, subscribe, share. Make it a great day living in Sedona. Oh, and don't forget, relocation guide has probably been on the screen. If you scan the relocation guide, you will be given the relocation guide free to your email inbox. So make sure you scan that. But I'll also leave the link in the description below. It's very informative and has some information, great information about living in Sedona and or the Verde Valley area. So next week's video is going to be a fun video after all this craziness that I just talked about. We are going to be going kayaking down the Verde River, and so I just got done filming it and I was really excited about it. So that will be next week. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified when we release one of our videos. All right, that's a lot of information. I'm going to be done talking now. Make it a great day at Living in Sedona, and I'll see you next week.